Scotland's World Cup dream is over, and now, so is the Steve Clarke era. Just days after the Tartan Army were left clinging to faint hopes of a knockout miracle, the final blow arrived. Croatia's 2-1 win over Ghana officially ended Scotland's chance of reaching the round of 32, and almost immediately, the news followed. Steve Clarke has resigned as Scotland manager. A campaign that began with history, belief, and thousands of traveling supporters dreaming across America has ended in frustration, questions, and a major search for a new leader. But this was not just a simple exit. This was a World Cup journey that swung from hope to heartbreak, from John McGinn making history to a damaging defeat against Brazil, to Clarke walking away only a month after signing a new 4-year deal. So how did Scotland go from celebration to collapse? And what happens next? Let's break it down. Steve Clarke's time as Scotland boss has officially come to an end after the national team were dumped out of the World Cup. Scotland had gone into the tournament carrying huge emotion. For the Tartan Army, this was not just another competition. This was the return to a World Cup stage, a moment many supporters had waited years to experience. And at first, there was real belief. John McGinn made history with the goal that helped Scotland beat Haiti, delivering their first World Cup win in 36 years. That result put Clarke's side in a strong position and briefly gave the nation the feeling that something special might be possible. But football changes quickly. After that promising start came defeat to Morocco, then came the crushing 3-0 loss to Brazil, a result that did more than damage morale. It wrecked Scotland's goal difference and left their hopes hanging by a thread. From that point, Scotland were no longer in control of their own destiny. They needed favors from elsewhere. They needed results across other groups to fall their way. They needed the best third-place team route to open up. Instead, Croatia's victory over Ghana closed the door. And with that, Scotland's World Cup was officially over. For Clarke, the decision came fast. The 62-year-old released a statement saying the most emotional part of his goodbye was leaving behind his players, the group who had built memories with him since 2019. He said it had been an honor to be their gaffer and wished his successor good luck. That word successor now defines the next chapter. Because Scotland are searching for a new manager, and the timing makes this even more dramatic. Only a month before the tournament, Clarke had signed a 4-year deal. He was expected to lead Scotland forward. Instead, after a World Cup campaign that ended in disappointment, that future has changed completely. But the story is more complicated than one bad tournament. Pressure had already been building before Scotland even arrived at the World Cup. Despite leading the team to qualification on a famous night at Hampden Park, Clarke and his players had faced criticism during their preparations. There were boos around warm-up matches, including the defeat to Ivory Coast at Everton's Hill Dickinson Stadium. Captain Andy Robertson defended the squad, insisting that many fans still appreciated what the team had achieved. But the tension was clear, expectations were high, and the margin for error was tiny. Then came the Brazil defeat. 2 early mistakes handed the 5-time world champions control of the match, and Scotland never recovered. Afterwards, Clarke's blunt post-match reaction only added to the sense that things were unraveling. He stormed out of an interview when asked to reflect on what might come next. And now, we know what came next. A resignation. This is the moment Scotland must confront the painful truth. A World Cup that had carried so much promise has ended in tatters. A manager who restored belief has stepped aside. And a fan base that traveled in huge numbers, spending money and emotion to follow their country across the tournament, is left asking what could have been. Because this Scotland side had moments. They had memories. They had that win over Haiti. They had McGinn's historic strike. They had the pride of returning to the biggest stage. But they also had the damage of Morocco, the brutal punishment from Brazil, the -3 goal difference, the waiting game, the reliance on others, and finally, the result elsewhere that ended it all. Croatia beat Ghana, Scotland were out. No last, 3-2 miracle, no knockout stage breakthrough, no chance to write the next chapter under Clarke. And that is why this resignation hits hard. Ian Maxwell, the Scottish FA chief executive, paid tribute to Clarke's 7 years in charge, reminding supporters of the progress made. Scotland had gone from being a pot 4 team in 2019 to topping a World Cup qualifying group. Under Clarke, they returned to major tournaments and gave supporters memories of marching proudly again. That matters. But football is ruthless. Progress does not always protect a manager when the final result is failure. And for Scotland, the final result in this World Cup was elimination at the group stage. Now the names will begin. David Moyes has already been mentioned. Kasper Hjulmand, Barry Ferguson, and Scott Gemmill have also been among the names linked as possible replacements. Whoever takes over will inherit a squad with history behind it, pressure around it, and a fan base desperate for the next step. Not just qualification, not just participation, but progress when it matters most. So Steve Clarke leaves Scotland with a complicated legacy. He brought the national team back to major tournaments. He helped restore pride. He gave the Tartan Army nights they will never forget. But his final chapter ended in disappointment, a World Cup exit confirmed by another team's result, followed by a resignation that now leaves Scotland at a crossroads. The search for a new manager begins immediately. The question is no longer whether Clarke can take Scotland forward. The question is, who can? Because after the heartbreak of this World Cup, Scotland need more than memories. They need direction, belief, and a leader ready to turn hard lessons into a stronger future. For the Tartan Army, the dream is over for now. But the inquest has only just begun.